It is up, it is back, it is gone, Marge!
See ya! Grand slam!
And it's gone!
Look at this, he got him.
They did it again! Reign reborn! Reigns again!
This portion of Across the Association is brought to you by Rawlings. Rawlings is the official baseball of the American Association. This is Across the Association. What's up, everyone? I'm Alex Bastiavansky. Great to see you again. You know, on last week's show, we had a brief story on the induction of former Commissioner Miles Wolff into the new AAPB Hall of Fame. Well, at the All-Star Game in Chicago, League insider Carter Woodiel had a chance to sit down with Miles for a fascinating interview. On the show today, we're going to hear what he had to say as he shared his thoughts and memories of independent baseball.
We are here at Impact Field, home of the Chicago Dogs, here as part of the 2022 American Association All-Star festivities, and we are here so glad to be joined by the only member of the inaugural American Association Hall of Fame class, Mr. Miles Wolff. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, Carter, it's great to be here.
Was there a moment that you can think of, thinking back, where you said, I'm going to start an independent baseball league? Was there a time where you sort of made the decision that that was something that this country needed?
Well, you know, I had been receiving calls from the upper Midwest asking how we can get baseball. And my first reaction was, you're not going to get baseball because there are going to be no more farm teams. Major League Baseball has set it on what they have. But I had my mentor in minor league baseball was a man named Bob Freitas. And he believed in the independent contest. When minor league baseball started, there weren't farm teams. Every team competed and you tried to win, and he preached the gospel that winning draws fans. And you would bring your manager into town if you had an affiliated club in the winter to talk about the team, and he'd say, I'm not here to win, I'm here to develop players. And that was always deflating because nobody wants to see a second baseman make 5 errors as he learns how to play the position. So I didn't know if there would be enough markets. There had been a few independent clubs. The Salt Lake City Trappers was one that had done great. The Bing Russell Portland Mavericks had done well, but these were sort of just one-outs. How are you going to put a league together? And just seeing the facilities that were still left in the upper Midwest, the interest, let's give it a try. And I was able to get about 5 owners who had been through independent baseball, with their city. That Mike Veck had been in Pompano Beach and it had failed, but all of them said they had more fun running an independent club than they'd ever had running an affiliated, and and they believed in it. So we got people that knew independent, what was independent baseball before the league started. And, all of them put on quality shows that first year, and it happened. Because if 1 or 2 teams had failed, the league would have failed. Everything had to come together, and it worked.
What did you look for to both sort of recognize that there was a potential in a city to have something great, and also maybe try and convince people that, hey, this new independent league I'm starting is worth investing in?
Well, I mean, it was just, I knew you needed a city of about 100,000, so that limited some. But over the 2 years I was looking, I must have visited 25 cities, you know, and some weren't 100,000, but they had a ballpark. And, you know, I had never heard of Thunder Bay, Ontario, and I got a call from somebody there. So I'm pulling out my road atlas, trying to sound intelligent when he talks about Thunder Bay, because I don't know where it is. And all of a sudden it's above Duluth, and Duluth looks like it can be in the league. So lots of things just happen. You know, that St. Paul, I had a friend that worked for the basketball, the Timberwolves, who was in the Twin Cities, and he said, well, why don't you look at St. Paul? Well, St. Paul had been in the original American Association, but they'd torn down that ballpark. And I said, well, they tore down that ballpark years ago. He said, no, they built a new one. You need to come look at this new ballpark. You got to get lucky a lot of times. But, you know, in Sioux City, there was no facility and no hopes of one. And the mayor said, you know, if you can get 5 cities, we'll be your 6th. And so I had 4, and I was desperate. And Rochester, Minnesota had a nice little ballpark, but they weren't going to put any money into it. But I pulled Rochester in just because they said they'd lease me the park so I could go to the mayor, you know, Sioux City, and said, build me a ballpark. So, you know, all of these things, you know, you get lucky sometimes. And we were lucky finding 6 good cities for the Northern League. The deal with potential owners was, you don't need to pay me anything for the franchise. It's a free franchise, but if we're still in existence 3 years down the road, then you pay me $50,000. And so we all were gambling, you know. A lot of people who started independent leagues were in it for the money. You pay me $200 grand and I'll give you a franchise. We were saying no franchise fee, but if you make it, then you've got something of value, you know, I get paid then.
Take us back to when that came together, to when you saw those franchises take the field, that first opening day, and what emotions were going through your head?
The feeling was just good. You know, every city was so excited to have baseball back. I was looking through a scrapbook I have, and I can't believe the amount of coverage we got. I mean, full pages, front page. Everybody was in love that baseball was back. So we just hit a chord at the right time. The Northern League area had a traditional minor league. It had folded in '71. So they had you know, when the team first leaves, they're bad memories. Oh, baseball failed. But then they started remembering the good things. So 20 years later, the people, you know, I would have fans come up to me and say, my father used to bring me here to a game, you know, so that I want to bring my kids.
Well, how important was that spirit of togetherness then? 'Cause that sort of reminds me of the players in a way. You know, we were just doing the home run derby here in Chicago, and everybody was around supporting each other, supporting the players, whether they were in their uniform or a different uniform, or sometimes their rival's uniform. How much does that sort of that spirit of cooperation, to be somewhat cliche, that's incredibly important in getting indie ball off the ground, and still today?
Well, certainly the early years, the 6 owners we had were all on board. They knew they were doing something special in their communities. They wanted to make sure it survived. You talk about players, and the first year I went to the final game in Thunder Bay, and after the game I went in the clubhouse to congratulate the manager, and I said, you know, how many of these guys do you think will want to come back next year? Because we never knew whether players would do 1 year and out. And he said, if I went around the room, all 22 would want to come back. It's baseball the way they always dreamed of it, where if you hit, you're playing. It's not if you got the biggest bonus or they think you're a prospect. So they loved, you know, that this was baseball as they knew it, you know, playing to win. And I think independent players do get along better. They don't worry about who's above them in AAA or who's coming up. oh, why did this guy get signed? You know, they're there just to play the game. But they love the game. Some played as many as 15, 16 consecutive seasons. That, you know, why? Because they so love the game. You know, they used to say, well, he won't quit till you tear the uniform off his back. Well, I think you see that here in this league.
We're here for the American Association All-Star Game. We've talked a lot about the Northern League, but can you tell us a little bit about how the AAPB came to be, those original teams, and how in 06 this league that has such a rich history was able to get its start?
I left the Northern League. There was a league meeting, and there were 9 lawyers in the meeting, everybody, and I thought, this isn't what I signed up for, to have lawyers there to second guess you. And so it was, and the league was solid, so let me move on, and I was in the Northeast League. Let me put my efforts there. And so they went, I think they went through 3 or 4 commissioners, and everybody, the original teams were really unhappy. And they came to me and, can we start a new league? Because we don't like the direction of this league. And I was running a league called the Central League then. And they brought 4, St. Paul, Sioux Falls, Sioux City, and Lincoln, I think, came over. And I brought 5 teams from the Central, and we put them together. And the American Association was the name of probably the greatest AAA league in baseball for many years. And the name was available. And we had some of the original cities of the American Association. St. Paul was a member. So it worked. It was the perfect name. We took the best cities from the Northern League, and we took some good cities from the Central, and put it together, and the American Association was born.
And how gratifying is it, these names that we're talking about, to have them still be on the field? The Sioux Falls and Sioux City, Lincoln, Winnipeg that joined very soon after the founding of that league, and the other teams like Fargo, Moorhead that came in. I know it's wonderful to be here with this sparkling new ballpark in Chicago, but Sioux Falls Canaries, they're playing their 30th season of pro baseball this year.
Yeah, who would have thought? And Sioux City, it is particularly gratifying to see. Many people thought we would fail and fail soon, but 30 years later. And how many sports leagues last this long? You see soccer leagues start up and minor football leagues, and to have a league last 30 years, there aren't a lot of them out there.
What made you decide that it was time to sort of hand the baton over to Josh Schaub and the rest of these folks?
Timing is everything, but one thing, Dan Muchon, who was the executive director of the league, was going on to run an affiliated league, and the league is strong. I'm in my 70s. It's time. It was just sort of time, and then COVID hit, and it proved good. I'm glad I didn't have to go through COVID with the league. Every time are they going to play? Are they not? And I thought, I'm glad I'm not dealing with that. So it was, the timing was good.
Well, what do you think the future holds for this league, for the next generation of people, for the next generation of teams and ballparks? What do you see when you think about the next 30 years?
Well, I think I see a very strong league. I think Major League Baseball cutting out 40 teams, I think that was an awful thing for baseball, but I think it makes independent leagues more valuable. So I would think to believe in another 30 years for the league is not a bad way to go, because you don't see a lot of weakness, knock on wood, but they've got good owners, good stadiums, good cities, and it should have a good long life.
Well, it's got a great godfather as well for independent baseball. Miles Wolff, is there anything else you want to talk about today? I know we've been talking for quite a while, but is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, it's just fun to talk baseball.
It is. It's always fun to talk baseball, and there's very few people who are better to talk baseball with than this fellow right here, the inaugural member of the American Association's Hall of Fame, Miles Wolff. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Miles Wolff, an absolute legend. Anyway, that is going to wrap up this week's show. Just a reminder, though, to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the American Association, be sure to check out the league's official social media outlets. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.